The PL Show is brought to you by Kel Chaco, Kel 360, and Kel Kids Toothpaste.
Hello again, it's good to see you on a Sunday evening here on the PL Show. My name is Keminni Amanor. Today on the PL Show, we will be talking to a wonderful woman who's made her mark in fashion all around the world. She has been photographed by some of the most exquisite photographers around the world, and you want to hear her story, traveling around the world and making that mark. The PL Show is brought to you by the Kel Toothpaste brands, Kel Kids, Kel 360, and Kel Chaco. My costume is Kind Ketsi Hillis Boutique, where you can find quality, affordable clothing in Jowolu. This is the PL Show, and I'll be right back.
Mommy.
Michelle say, fe. Yum.
Different era, better result. Time has changed and time has brought Kel Chocolate Toothpaste. Healthy gums, anti-cavity, fresher breath, and it whitens teeth. Kel Chocolate Toothpaste. Sankofa.
Yenchi, Kel Chocolate Toothpaste.
Happy smile.
This advert is FDA approved.
Welcome back to the PL Show. Today's conversation is one I have been looking forward to. And by the time we are done, you will know why. So stick with me here on the PL Show. Let's dig right into our conversation. My guest today is Mrs. Ophelia Akiwumi. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Tell us the story of who Ophelia was. Where did you grow up?
My previous name was Nanka Bruce, and I grew up a little bit here in Nigeria, and then in England. I went to school in England. I studied in England, and then got married, and I've been here.
But before then, you also went to study fashion.
I studied fashion in London, in the
London.
Paris Academy of Fashion.
Okay.
And then I got my diploma in fashion and came back to Ghana, got married, and started making clothes, and then opened, I think, the first boutique in Accra. My father was a well-known doctor. He came from one of the old families of Accra, and grew up on the Ring Road. And I think my father thought I was precocious, because I always, as a little girl, cooked, baked, made clothes for myself and for my dolls. And so I was sent to Nigeria to boarding school.
Right.
And then I came back. I was brought back because I didn't really like it, and spent a year here in school. And then I was sent off to England to school.
Did you ever learn why you had to go to Nigeria to boarding school?
Well, my father was educated in Nigeria, and he thought the system there was much better than it was in Ghana. That was his opinion anyway. And so we all actually went to school in Nigeria.
But young Ophelia didn't like it.
No.
What didn't you like about Nigeria at that time?
I come from a home where, we had a certain lifestyle, ate a particular kind of food, and I was sent to this place where the food was totally alien, and the whole atmosphere was just something I wasn't used to. So I was quite rebellious, I must say.
Did that land you in trouble?
It always did, yes.
What's one of the worst that you remember?
Kneeling in the sun on hard stone.
Oh, goodness.
And it's a convent, so you can imagine what that was like.
Wow. But what are some of the fondest memories you have as a child?
We had a lot of fun because we had a really huge compound, and literally all the young people, all our friends, my parents' friends, all the children, everybody came to our house to play because there was so much space. And so, it was fun. And we all had a good time.
What did you want to be then? Was it always fashion?
No, I wanted to be a doctor, and I wanted to be a a plastic surgeon, which is at the time.
Do you remember why you wanted those at the time?
No, it's just something that, I thought of. And, this was being in school in England. It was just something that, one saw and one thought of, but somehow it never materialized.
So how did you end up in fashion school then?
I've always been from childhood into fashion. I've always made my own things from a very, very young age, and also for my dolls. And I've always had this innate feeling I could always do something, and whatever came to my mind, I just did. And that's me in a nutshell. I just do things as they come along.
Right. How did your parents feel about you going to fashion school when they probably knew at the time you wanted to be a surgeon?
No.
They didn't know.
No, my parents always knew I was very creative. I always did things, and there was no argument in my wanting to do fashion, and so that's how I ended up.
So talk to us about your time in England in fashion school. What was it like?
Well, it was fun. The thing is, I was always in a little bit of trouble because I was always sort of thinking ahead and wanting to do things before we sort of got there. But anyway, eventually I got through it. And got my diploma. So that was.
Was it difficult being a black kid in England and in fashion school at that time?
Not really. I hardly had any experience as a black person because being in school in England, in a public school anyway, there was nothing like being black, blue, or pink, because it was not something that was allowed in those days. I don't know whether it was allowed or not. It just did not exist. Yeah. The only time I realized I was black, or whatever color, was when I came to London. And I was trying to find at the time somewhere to stay. And, you will call and have a nice conversation with the landlady or landlord. And then you turn up and they look at you and say, like, what you doing here? And I say, well, I'm Miss Bruce. I spoke to you on the phone and you said I can come and have a look at the apartment. Then they just look at you and say, I'm sorry, it's rented. And that was my first sort of confrontation with being black. I quite enjoyed myself in England, and
despite that experience,
it was one of the few experiences I had. I really didn't experience anything extraordinary. And in those days, when you walked around in England, people actually smiled at you and were, quite pleasant to you. It was after the late 60s that I think people started being, very antagonistic towards black people.
So was it in London that the modeling also took off?
Yes, when I lived in London, I was sort of always trying to supplement my pocket money, which was never enough. Because I had a thing for buying expensive shoes and, all sorts of things. And whenever I asked for money, my father would say, no, you have your allowance and you make do. And I would go to my bank manager and say, oh, can I have my allowance a day early? No. I was always told about the instructions from my father, and regardless of what. So the only way to do things was to work.
Look for the extra income.
Yes, and that's what I did.
So what are some of the things you did, some of the brands you worked for while you were working as a model?
Apparently I had an unusual face. And so I modeled for people like Armstrong Jones and Jonathan Bailey. I did adverts for Goya, which was in...
for Goya?
Yeah. This was in one of the big shops in London in the West. I did a lot of modeling of things. I was on the cover page for Drum magazines on 2 issues. And, generally, I just, whatever came along, I did. And that was it.
So for those of us who don't know Drum magazine, because I tried to find out what that magazine was about, could you share something with us?
Well, Drum was the first leading kind of African magazine published, and it was a South African publication. I remember coming home on holidays in, I think, 59, And I saw my pictures all behind taxi cabs and so forth. I was like, oh, wow.
You made it.
This is me. But, it's all in the past.
Did you know that you were not going to make a career out of modeling when you were doing it? Because then you had done some pretty good jobs.
I never thought of making a career because I did try, but the thing was I had a problem with being black in those days. Being black was not, the ideal thing. And I was a little bit short, so, but I did try. And, I was told I was black and short, so, that was the end of it. But I was always satisfied within myself of who I am. So, nothing sort of deterred me from doing whatever I wanted to do.
Was it an easy decision to pack up and come back home?
In a way, it was difficult because I really didn't know anybody here apart from my parents because, not having actually grown up here, matured here, I didn't have what you call schoolmates or anything. It was difficult. But then I had my boyfriend then. We both literally came from the same background. He'd also been in school in England. Our family have been friends for, ever since. And somehow I didn't like him when we were growing up, little boys, because he used to come and play in the house with my brothers, and he was tall, lanky, and droopy. And then I met him in London, and there was this tall, dark, handsome, guy, which when you're in school, you all think, oh, I'm going to marry a tall, dark, handsome man, and then lo and behold, I got one. So.
And you stuck with him?
Stuck with him ever since.
Since 1963?
Before. That was when we got married, but before then.
Before that?
We were going out together for about 4 years before we got married.
So in total, it's been over 4 decades?
It's in a long prison sentence, but it's fine.
I like that. I like that.
It's one of the things where, when you play Monopoly, it says, do not pass go, do not collect 200, go straight to jail. That's what marriage is all about. So.
So did he come to Ghana with you?
Yes, he wanted to come to Ghana. I was a little bit skeptical, but he always wanted to come to Ghana when he finished, and we came and we got married. And
then when you came to Ghana, did you immediately go into business?
Yes, literally. I was working from home. I set up a workshop at home. Yeah. And I was working at home. I was making clothes for diplomats and all, then MPs, with female MPs. And then I used to supply Kingsways with dresses. And then I decided to open my own shop.
What was it called?
It was called Nymphet Boutique.
Wow. And where was it? In Accra?
It was in, Cocoa House, Republic House. The back of Republic House, they had a series of shops, and I had a shop there.
So you were the first ready-to-wear store that used
yes,
African print?
Definitely, yes.
Wow. How did you get the idea that, we can make ready-to-wear stuff with our wax prints, our fabric?
Well, I always wanted to project what we have. It's always been a thing with me. I know what we have, and I know we can do a lot with it. But we have always been brainwashed to think that whatever comes from somewhere else is better than what we can do. So it's always been something with me. I've always gone into African prints because it's lively, it's vibrant, and it gives you so many choices of what to do with it.
But in 76, you decided that you wanted to do some interior design.
In 76, a little bit later,
okay.
I was introduced to a group of Italians who had then come here to do some work. And we got on so well. And then, they invited me to Italy, to the, atelier, and I sort of did on-the-job training with them.
What about interior design attracted you to it?
Actually, I got bored with fashion because, there's so many ways you can do something over and over and over again. And after a while, it gets boring.
How long was your internship in Italy?
I was constantly going backwards and forwards. So it's not like, I was living in Italy. It was like, I would go for a few months and come back. It was an, off and on thing.
So at what point did you go full trade interior design?
When I came back, because I left the country, and then when I came back, I decided I wasn't going to do fashion. I decided I wasn't doing fashion a long time ago. Before I went away, I started working in interior designing. I was asked to refurbish the State House, the castle, and then Peduasi, but we didn't get up to Peduasi because then we had the coup and I'd had enough. That's really what it is. I've always done something like that.
At this time, had the idea of Art Deco begun, or it was just you trying your hands out at something new?
Well, I'd set up a company, but so I was doing other things. I was doing things in conjunction with fern art, because with doing interiors, you needed furniture and so forth. Yeah. But then at this time, it was okay. But then when I left and came back, it was like fern art for me always sort of was repetitious. And I have a very short tolerance for things, So I've always, I couldn't think of how many ways I'm going to use the same thing because everything was always the same. And so when I came back, while I was away, I decided when I came back I was going to start my own furniture company so that I can do what I want for the client and also not repeat. So whatever you got from us was just for you and not for anybody else.
You'd have to be thinking every time for your customers.
It doesn't make it difficult because customers sometimes come with a particular idea, and really I look at the person and I say, well, I suggest what I think can be done, and it usually works out. So it's been a little difficult, but not too difficult.
And that is not the only exclusive thing about Art Deco. You also make sure that you're more sustainable. You have a fusion in your furnishings with trees that are more sustainable. Tell us about that.
I use mostly what you call lesser known species of timber, LUS. And the very beautiful timber, we have quite a large supply of that. But the thing is, everybody is so used to the usual Iroko, all the different redwoods, shadewood, and so forth, which they have become very difficult to get. And in fact, some of them are not even on the market anymore because they're prohibited. And so I had to look for something, and I believe in using solid timber because that you can keep for generations rather than plywood and chipboard and all the other stuff that people use or bring in as furniture. So I really found this sustainable timber, and I've been using it ever since.
So when was Art Deco originally birthed?
94, 93, 94.
That's
right.
when it originally became
Yes,
the
because
company.
I got tired of moving from place to place with my husband, and I just said to him I had enough. I was coming home.
So just a random thought. So for somebody who had very little tolerance for repetition, it means traveling around the world at that time with your husband was good for you.
Yeah, it was exciting. It was exciting. We went to all kinds of places.
Where are some of the places that you lived?
I lived in Papua New Guinea, which you probably may not know of. And in fact, when we were told he was being transferred to Papua New Guinea, everybody was going, oh, you can't go there. They eat people. They're cannibals and all that. And I said, well, that's where we're going. And we had a great time. It was the most advanced place at the time.
There's still a lot more to talk about with Mrs. Ophelia Akiwumi. She's told us about her furniture company, Art Deco. Let's take a look at what a typical day is like in her life.
Mrs. Akiwumi trained at the Paris Academy of Fashion, London, but later turned to interior designing in 1976 with 2 top firms in Italy. Mrs. Akiwumi created the Art Deco, an exclusive furniture and design company for the discerning client. The Art Deco has a small but highly skilled and talented Ghanaian workforce. They use solid timber to manufacture furniture that lasts a lifetime.
I've worked with her for 20 years now. She's a good woman. She likes everything accurate.
Wow, 20 years he's worked there.
Well, all my workers have been with me for a long time.
Wow. What do you think keeps them there with you?
Well, I respect them. They respect me. 2, I allow them to bring out the talents in them without, forcing them into a box of saying this is how it should be and doing the same thing. I'm always challenging them to use their minds, and that's how I've been able to keep all my staff. Some of them have been there for 25 years with me.
And I love the designs that I saw, but what also caught my eye is your building itself. It's so beautiful.
Well, the thing is, we are in Ghana stuck in a frame of mind where everything is as it should, they think, and everything is copied from outside. Yeah. Now, we have the materials here, and, we should use them. And everybody says to me, I love wood, I do everything in wood, I build in wood, I have a house which is built completely in wood and everything. And, everybody is into concrete and glass. One, it's not environmentally friendly. We are blessed with the kind of climate we have, which is sunshine and air. And yet, people seem to think building in this constricted way of glass and concrete, because it's done in other places, it's what we should do. But we are blessed with this wonderful climate, and nobody's taking advantage of it. And this is the way I think, and this is the way I do things. So, people say, oh, timber is going to burn. Of course, everything burns. I mean, if you don't...
Even the concrete.
Thank you, because if you take care of everything, what you have, it won't burn. You do proper electrical wiring. That's really the main cause of most of our buildings going up in smoke. So it's a mindset that we have in this country, and it's a mindset that in my own little way I'm trying to change.
That's awesome. Yeah. Now, the 360 segment is brought to you by Kel 360 toothpaste, which brightens your teeth, gives you anti-cavity and gum protection, and freshens your breath. This product is FDA approved, and so you can rely on its quality. Now, away from that, let's get back to a chat with Mrs. Ophelia Akiwumi. Now, talk to us about doing business in Ghana. What are some of the lessons that you have learned?
That's a tall order. Doing business in Ghana is the most difficult, frustrating, thing you can come across, because people are not prepared to think outside the box. And Ghanaians generally just want to do what they see. They're not prepared to take think out and think that, oh, there are possibilities, but it's always what they see is what they want. And so everybody ends up with what everybody else has. And getting any assistance from, the state as such is totally impossible, because you're not thinking or doing what is generally done. Everybody's always in a corset. Let's put it that way. In a fashion context, everybody's always in a corset.
And we literally are these days.
Yes. So,
what about your longevity? What would you say has contributed to that?
I eat well. I exercise regularly. I used to play a lot of tennis, but I found that there were too many chauvinists on the tennis court, so I stopped playing tennis. I still play squash 3 times a week, and I cook a lot.
What's your favorite?
Well, I cooked dishes from all over the world.
Because you have lived all over the world.
Well, not only that, it's always been a thing with me. In fact, when I opened my showroom, I decided to have a little terrace where we serve food. And I used to, like, once a month do a little
food tasting event.
Yeah. And, you know, we have like 25 tables and people will book. And we provided dishes, depending on the month, from around the world. So you can come and have Italian food, French food, Thai food, Indian food, name it, whatever.
So what's your favorite food that you like to make?
What do I like to make? It's difficult. I don't know, I make everything.
It comes with the mood.
Exactly. And also basically what my husband decides he wants to eat. You know, we're prepared to cook almost anything because he's thoroughly spoiled.
Who do you think is responsible for
I
that?
don't know. I can tell you a story or two about that, but I won't.
Indeed. So let's talk about your business before we wrap it up on the 360 segment. How lucrative would you say it is to make exclusive furniture for people?
It's just a pleasure when, you know, you satisfy somebody, and that for me is what it's all about. It's not the money or, you know, how lucrative it is. It is just the joy of having a really satisfied person and, you know, walking into whatever you've done and, you know, feel the pride of what you have done. That's primarily what it is about for me anyway.
How easy is it to source raw material for a business like yours?
It's difficult. This is why I don't go in for the normal timbers that we use. That's why I go in for the lesser known species. But then it's also very expensive to get the timber. But working with it and the satisfaction of it is, you know, makes up for all the inconveniences that one has to put up with.
Do you think there's a future for a wood industry or furniture, local furniture industry in the country?
Well, there is. You know, all we have to do is to look outside of it. At the moment, I took a trip with my grandchildren to the Western region, and I discovered what we call the raffia palm. Now, I discovered that, but it's not that it was my original discovery, but, you know, I discovered a hotel which was built out of this whole thing. And I inquired about it, and I was told that, oh, it's a palm that grows around the place. So I decided to experiment with it during the COVID time, and I built a house with it. And I've had people, you know, from all over the world, you know, calling me, asking me about this thing. It is cheaper, it is sustainable, it is available, and it's local. And you can, you know, if we can build plantations out of it, we can give the indigenous people, the local people work. But it's continuously trying to convince the Ghanaian, the mind that, you know, hey, look, you can do something different, and we have the resources here to do it.
Let's talk about your clientele list, which includes the Jubilee House. You did some design there. What exactly did you do there?
We refurbished the whole place, you know, did all the furniture works in Jubilee House. It was a lot of hard work, and fortunately, the client was, you know, satisfied, and everybody who goes there literally thinks that all the stuff was imported, but there's nothing imported about all the stuff there. And I've always done work for my clients, you know, so.
Do you want to tell us where Art Deco is, in case somebody wants to get in touch now?
We're behind the GRA building on the Ring Road, and also we have a workshop, a showroom on Farah Avenue.
If you want to get details of how to get in touch with Art Deco, find all the information you need at the bottom of your screen. This is the PL Show. We'll be back with our conversation in a moment, so stay with us.
Hello, my friends. My name is Kids Toothpaste.
Wow.
I was made to be gentle on your gum, but protected. I will protect your teeth from cavity, make your teeth whiter, stronger, keep your mouth fresh all day. And best of all, I'm strawberry flavored. So put on a smile and try me.
That's amazing.
Just try me. That's my job.
If you say so, jump on my brush. Makes your teeth stronger. Chicky chicky whiter. Chicky chicky stronger. Yay! You did it!
I'm glad you like your new toothpaste. Don't forget to brush both day and night.
Kel Kids. Happy smile.
Welcome back. You're still here on the PL show. My amazing guest today is Mrs. Ophelia Akiwumi. She is the founder of Art Deco. We've learned a lot about her life and running a business in Ghana, particularly the furniture business here in the country. And if you missed the conversation, don't worry. You can always catch up with it on a rebroadcast here on this channel or on YouTube. I want us to talk about family as we wind down. You had 2 boys.
Yes.
You still have 2 boys, except that you have more. You have grandchildren also now.
Yes.
Let's start with your boys. Talk to us about your sons.
My oldest son is a lawyer, and he actually at the moment he lives in the Cayman Islands, which is a long way away. And my youngest son is a writer and a film producer, director, and he lives in Sweden.
What is it like having your empty nest?
I can use strong words, but it's a bit of a nuisance, and one never really anticipated this kind of life of having one's children so far away. But thanks to modern technology, at least we communicate, we talk on a regular basis.
This is the point of the program where we share with you our presents from our very amazing and awesome sponsors, Samara Company, who are producers of the Kel toothpaste. So I will touch it to present to you. Because of where we're sitting, you'd have to touch it to symbolically accept.
Okay.
Yes, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for accepting our present, but we also have one more for you. We give to every other guest who comes on here. I just put this here so I can present it to you. I need to stand to do that. It's our symbolic show of your queenship.
Nice.
And so maybe the grandbabies can now call you Na. So here you go.
Okay,
this is for you. Thank you so much for coming here. You could add it to, and it's wood. Best part. we knew what you want.
Okay, thank you.
It's also wood. So thank you so much for coming. We have learned a lot from you.
Thank you for asking me.
My name is Keminni Amanor, and this is the PL Show.
Love is sweet, sobolo, sobolo, sobolo the sweet, K-O-E-I, Wodona Kama commemorate, paint, smile, mami, chanche, faint, kron kron vera, dio, saint, on pento kwa kasa kasa ne, complaint, bay.